All right, man, peace. You know, brothers, one of the core tenets of cultural Marxism is the utilization of the average quote-unquote citizen as an informant. It's very important because it breeds distrust amongst each and every quote-unquote citizen to the point where they put all of their trust only in the state and not one another. It breaks down community. It breaks down the fabric of society because now you're looking towards whoever the figurehead is, in this case it being the NBA commissioner or some of the executives, as those who are holding the quote-unquote truth. You now start to look at your neighbor as a potential quote-unquote snitch. So now in response, you want to snitch on that person. That's why I find it very interesting that the NBA will start this snitch hotline, of course being led by none other than Chris Paul, the person who probably in the last 20 years has been involved in some of the more unsavory moments regarding his teammates or former teammates. So he does make a perfect NBA Players Association president because he doesn't care enough about the other players in the league to worry about how they feel about him. He cares enough to get them paid, predominantly getting himself paid in the process. But he doesn't care enough about them to be concerned about how they're going to feel if he tattles on them because he knows that he's on his way out anyway. And as long as he gets his $40 to $45 million a year, he's good. As well as Mr. LeBron James. LeBron is right alongside of Chris Paul as being the players who will do anything to make sure that they let the other players know, I'm the boss, or at least the underboss. I'm the intermediary between you and the commissioner. And I don't care if you don't trust one another. I don't care if you don't trust me. I'm going to do what I have to do to execute the plan that I need to execute. But just getting back to the point. I'm not quite sure what the point of this overall snitch hotline is, other than for the NBA to excuse themselves from any accusations of trying to control the players, track them, or that the NBA bubble isn't what we all know it is. That being a microcosm of many of the tenets of social engineering that they probably have planned for America in the near future. That being the quarantine mentality, the snitching mentality, and the tracking ring that shows your quote-unquote COVID-19 status. So we'll see what happens overall. Of course, they're going to talk about it. I'm going to chime in.
According to reports, there have already been several anonymous tips to the NBA hotline about players breaking rules in the Orlando bubble.
If you need the players to call up a snitch hotline to stop other players from quote-unquote breaking the rules, what that tells me is that you did not plan the bubble out as efficiently and as proficiently as you should have. Because there are supposed to be security guard checkpoints that stop players from leaving certain areas that they're not supposed to be leaving, unless it's in the case of an emergency. And if there is such an emergency, as we're seeing with Mr. Zion Williamson of the New Orleans Pelicans, there's a protocol that you go through so that you can leave the bubble in an orderly fashion. They actually want a little bit of chaos here to breed distrust amongst the players. Because as I've told you, brothers, in previous videos pertaining to this topic, there's going to be a lot of chicanery going on within that NBA bubble in Orlando, Florida. Certain assets are going to be put under a deeper level of programming, so just watch for that. Especially amongst named players. That's also why I found it interesting that Bradley Beal was not going to be involved in the bubble because he's one of their assets. But it wouldn't surprise me that if what we're seeing from Avery Bradley is just a precursor to initiate some type of player movement in the future where the Lakers can acquire Bradley Beal from the Washington Wizards, maybe for Avery Bradley, a few other players, a couple of draft picks. I'm not quite sure what they have left after that New Orleans Pelicans trade, but be on the lookout for a possible transaction between the Lakers and the Washington Wizards that involves Avery Bradley for Bradley Beal. And as we can see, and as I always tell you, brothers, particularly in the Kabbalistic undertone, when it comes to many of these narratives that involve the sports world, there will be a commonality with the name Avery Bradley, Bradley Beal. So once again, be on the lookout for that.
Immediately, Twitter began to have a field day with Chris Paul memes speculating that he was the one behind all the anonymous tips. Shannon, is it too much to have a snitch hotline situation?
No, it's not funny. Skip, look, I understand. It's funny. You know, I'm laughing, Skip, but it's serious. Because you have to understand, if this virus penetrates this bubble, it's over. There's a...
Right, but to what severity, Shannon Sharp? Adam Silver is already on record as stating that there are going to be people within that bubble who are going to contract the coronavirus. So the NBA's job is to make sure that they let all of the players feel like they've done their best to provide a safe environment. The NBA is not a virology lab. They're not going to be the ones who are the experts on how not to contract a virus that pretty much is airborne. Their job is to make sure that they're able to secure all of the funding that they need for their league to continue on, because they have lost a lot of money in the past 12 months. First with the China situation, now with the early end of their season, or the early suspension of their season. The amount of games that have been contracted, they have to make this work. So if it means that they have to put forth some type of appearance of success or appearance of orderly protocols being set for this bubble, that's what they're going to have to do. When it comes to the players, they're pretty much on their own. And as I've already stated, they want a little bit of chaos here just to see what a small amount of people are willing to give up voluntarily. And that's what Marxism is really about at its core. How can they convince you to give up your rights voluntarily?
Why they put, Skip, if everything was normal, they would have left you in your normal locations and everything would have been normal. They put you in an isolated area to try to keep this disease out. If you go and come...
Well, isn't it interesting that they chose the isolated area that is now the epicenter of the coronavirus, Shannon Sharp? Is it interesting, or is it a coincidence, or what? I'll be covering that down the line, but it's very clear that the coronavirus narrative is directly linked to the worship of the sun god, aka the quote-unquote bull god. That's why Florida, also known as the quote-unquote sunshine state, also known as the orange state, is the state that they want the masses to believe has this unbelievable escalation in coronavirus positive testing. And of course, it's now been found that most of these hospitals are cooking the books. And as opposed to it being a 90% escalation, it's really only about a 9% escalation. So everything is narrative driven, and it is according to the doctrines of Luciferianism and the veneration of who they believe to be the quote-unquote God of this world. The quote-unquote sun god, or the god of light, Lucifer, also known as Horus or Heru. So that's always the undertone. But you have to have an understanding of what's going on to be able to see it.
Like you want to, guess what's going to happen? So guys are going to have to make a decision. Either we're all in and we're going to bull jive and this season's going, Skip is going to get going and the bubble's going to get penetrated, and guess what? Adam Silver's going to shut it down.
I doubt it. It would have to be drastically bad for Adam Silver to shut it down. Like 30 to 40% of the players would have to come down with the coronavirus in order for Adam Silver to say, okay, no more. It would have to be that drastic, because a virus like that would move that quickly. Let's say if a player were to suddenly come down with the virus and appear to be ill, and he were tested and found to have a positive test, they would then have to test all of the players and coaches that were around that player for the last, say, 5 to 7 days. If the majority of those coaches and players were also found to test positive, then they would have to test some of the referees and the opposing teams that they've squared off against in the previous week or so. And if the majority of those people were found to be positive, then they would probably have to shut it down. But for one person, no, they would just quarantine that person at a separate location and keep it going. The NBA has to keep their money coming in.
What is that? Yeah, we make a light of it and talk about they snitching and all this, but some guys down there are taking this serious. They say, look.
Yeah, like my man LeBron. We're taking it dead serious, Skip, because we're trying to catch Jordan. We had 3 championships, we're trying to get to 4.
Down here for a purpose, a reason. Let's get what we need to get done and try to get back. Skip, if you just get to go off campus and come back whenever you want to and interact with anybody, Skip.
Well, one has to wonder, why is that the case? What's the point of there being a bubble if they're able to move how they please? One would think that it should already have been a part of the agreement and the understanding that these are the parameters of where you can navigate in this environment. You cannot move outside of this environment unless there's a family emergency or there's some type of health risk with you where you have to leave the bubble to stop from infecting other people. So why are they so loosey-goosey with the coming and going? There should be security detail, but I already know why that is. It's because they don't want the players to feel like they're trapped in this locale, like they're trapped in this quote-unquote atmosphere where they can't move. They don't want people tweeting and on social media saying that they're being forced to stay in an environment that they feel like they want to leave, because then it will blow up in the NBA's face, and they're concerned about being perceived as a quote-unquote progressive league that has respect for the players. But at the end of the day, if they're going to make this work, they have to do it hard body. You're either all in or you're all out. Not just the players, but also the management, the executives. And it should already be understood, if you're going to step into this bubble, don't try to leave unless you don't plan on coming back.
That's the whole purpose of the bubble. It's not to have these kind of interactions. We know everybody that's going to come in here is going to be tested. So therefore, we can minimize the risk of someone infecting everybody else in here. Well, Skip, if guys just going to go and come if they please, what the hell is the bubble for?
I agree. But that's a question to ask Adam Silver, not the players. The players, I mean, come on, let's be for real. A lot of these guys think like little kids. They've been accustomed to getting their way since they were 12 years old on the AAU circuit. So they have to have, these boundaries created for them.
Man, guys need to make up their minds, Skip. Either they want this or they don't. I wish that there's...
Well, we already know the majority of the players do not want this. This is pretty much the LeBron James Invitational.
I can say it, and I get, well, these guys, you should be able to go and come in my freedoms and my liberties. Well, your freedoms and liberties is about to get us locked down again.
Yep.
And your freedoms and liberties are about to get that bubble cracked, and you about to get your butt up out of there. And there's about to be an end of a season.
Yep.
It's as simple as that.
Well, we know why you're upset about that. It's because you want your homeboy to try to get that cheap 4th championship.
It is. And yet, to your first point, I got a big kick last night out of all the memes. It was funny. It was funny seeing Chris Paul like in a big control room with 1,000 screens, presumably of every player's room.
That shit is right up his alley too. Chris Paul being in charge of something like that, because he just comes off as the most obnoxious person. I mean, maybe he's not. Maybe he's not obnoxious at all. But that's the energy that I get from him.
Monitoring. Obviously, he's the president of the Players Association. Chris Paul walking in a sheriff's outfit, which he once wore to a game.
Right.
And LeBron quickly dialing his phone like to bust Kawhi for ordering Chipotle for delivery.
Yeah, they got the meme of Tom and Jerry. He's looking at Tom is looking over his shoulder. He's dialing the He's calling the cops.
Okay, I got it. But I am so with you. In the end, not a laughing matter. It's literally a life and death matter.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, the coronavirus has a 99.97 recovery rate. So I just want to see when the United States announces that they have the vaccine ready. Hopefully Shannon Sharp and Skip Bayless will be the first 2 people on FS1 to receive the vaccine, and they should do it on air.
It's literally a season or no season matter. So what are we doing here in the studio right now? It's you and I and Jenny's.
What you guys are doing are propagating fear and hoping that you can get other people to buy into it. One of the ways that I knew that Jason Whitlock was not going to be on FS1 for much longer is that he came on TV and started to talk about how we should be reevaluating the impact of COVID-19 and how much fear is being projected towards the viewing audience based on this quote-unquote pandemic, especially in light of the recovery rate and the way in which people were able to heal themselves even after they were infected with the virus. And then a few days later, you find out that he's off FS1. And of course, it was about other things than that. But I have very little doubt. These major news outlets, they do not want people on TV casting any doubt pertaining to the impact and the power, the potency of the coronavirus. Because once again, it's not just the literal virus. It's also the esoteric aspect of it, what it represents. That's why they were speaking about how it was going to bring forth a quote-unquote new normal. Because the people were going to be forced, due to this virus, which is not just a health risk, but also an attempt to contort and recalibrate your mental and spiritual outlook. It was going to be a mechanism to bring in the quote-unquote New World Order, where you have to bow down to and worship the quote-unquote sun god. They're in the process of doing certain things. How much is going to work? Who knows? But there's always a supraliminal understanding and a subliminal understanding to everything that occurs.
Over there.
Way over there.
And
no camera.
There's nobody. There's nobody. Is there anybody out there? We have one camera operator for all these cameras. We have,
but he ain't in here right now.
We usually have
3, 4.
4. I think we have 4. I don't know. I never even looked.
Yeah.
I think we have 4. Where are you? There's nobody. The camera operator ducked out now because we are trying to stay completely distant.
And you know what, Skip? How few camera people? We don't even have camera people to show you that there's no camera people.
We don't. We can't move the camera at this point. So I keep calling Fox right now the antiseptic ghost town that it is, in a great way. Mm-hmm. Every 15 feet in the hallway, there's a Purell.
And on top of that, television shows like this, they need the NBA season to come back. Because there's only so much that they can keep talking about race and how they feel the NFL season is going to go. The NFL has yet to announce what their COVID-19 plan is going to be. College football has already pretty much shut down any outside of divisional play, or outside of conference play, I should say. So we'll see what the overall plan is for the NFL, unless they stand up against the propaganda, as I stated in a video that I put on my Chronicles of Judah 2 channel on Patreon. We'll see.
Everyone I see, everyone without fail, I stop and get 2 scoops, right?
Yep.
And I do this. Every restroom, as you're leaving, you got a Purell station, right?
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
this is...
Right, but Skip Bayless, have you been tested for the COVID-19 virus since you claim that you're so paranoid about it? I'm pretty sure that if you were tested for it, you've probably either had the disease already or you might have it now. But due to the fact that you train every day and you eat relatively healthy, that your immunity level is high enough to fight the virus. Or who the hell knows? You might get tested for it and have a defective testing kit and they tell you that you're positive when you're really negative. Who knows?
Because it's just what we all have to do. So in the end, when I come in here in the morning, I'm thinking we are only as strong or as safe as our weakest link.
Right.
And I'm hoping...
Yes, that's the herd mentality. Instead of herd immunity, it's going to be herd mentality. And that's going to be the same herd mentality that they will try to implement when that vaccine gets dropped. Well, we should all get it because, you know, I don't want you to put my life at risk. Well, wait a minute. If you're getting the vaccine, why are you worried about what somebody else is doing? Well, because I just think that the impact will be higher if we all get it.
Everybody, the few people who do, in our skeleton crew we do have in here, I hope everybody takes it seriously enough to realize we are literally in this together.
Correct.
Now, we don't have a literal all-day bubble because we all go home.
Go home. Correct.
When I go home, that's the only place I just go home.
Right.
I don't go anywhere.
Yep.
Okay, but we can't know for sure what other people that we're going to come in contact with are going to do.
Correct.
Right now, LA is basically shut down again. Restaurants, bar.
Yes, Gavin Newsom, the nephew of Nancy Pelosi, he had to show his Marxist power, his communist might, by shutting down the state of California again. A state that has, what, 20 million people? And how many deaths have they had that they attributed to COVID-19? Is it 10,000 yet? I'm not quite sure. But this is clearly a power play and a mind fuck from Gavin Newsom because he's been trying to stay on the wear your mask train for a very long time now. He also had $1 billion deal with China to provide masks to the people of California. So he wants to make sure that the people are using the product that he has because he's in business with the Chinese in more ways than one. Once again, the Democratic governors and senators, House of Representative staff members, they're working with the Chinese. China represents the pinnacle of the modernized version of communism because they've mixed communism with a little bit of capitalism. And that's truly what they want for America.
Or some renegade restaurants and bars that are trying to stay somehow quietly open.
Right.
So if one person in our little bubble here every morning, if they say, it's not that big a deal, I'm going to go to that renegade bar. I'm going to hang out tonight. I'm not going to wear a mask. I'm tired of this. I'm sick of this. I don't want the economy to collapse. I'm going to go and give my money.
If you don't want the economy to collapse, then you should tell your governor to stop closing down all of these small businesses for every little thing, because they're truly the target. They're trying to destroy all small businesses so that the major corporations can gobble up the real estate. Because these governors, senators, mayors are getting kickbacks from these big time corporations in return for destroying these small businesses.
That far because it deserves to stay open,
Right.
to stay in business, right? Well, okay, so what? Could we be at risk? Sure we
Absolutely,
could.
yes.
So that's happening right now in the Orlando bubble. You're only as safe as your weakest link.
Correct.
So again, NBA players, NFL players tend to think they become invincible.
Of course.
Russell Westbrook just got corona, right?
Yeah. Skip it.
Right, Russell Westbrook just got corona. But what does that mean? That's like saying Russell Westbrook came down with a cold. You can have two people catch the flu. One person will recover in 3 to 4 days. The other person might pass away. That's always been the case. What this truly is a great study in how easy it is to infiltrate the minds of the weak-minded. And by no means am I saying that you're weak-minded because you take the coronavirus seriously. You should. You should take all illnesses seriously. And you should follow the dictates of, whoever your official is, for the sake of avoiding dumb shit. Now, you have people out here who've made the mask wearing a huge issue. Do whatever you feel like you're compelled to do. That's your business. Just understand the repercussions of everything that you do, whether you wear a mask or not. But at the end of the day, this is truly a great study in how easily the vast majority of these people can have their mindset contorted just based on media propaganda.
Reason because two players had it, Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert.
Yeah, they're pretty
They
good
shut
stars,
the entire season down.
Yeah.
What, 5, 6 Sacramento?
Right, but the NBA was not shut down because Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert came down with the coronavirus. They shut the season down because that was a coordinated event, but all of the major corporations and sports leagues were designated to shut down at around the same time, that being in mid-March. And that was for the mother goddess.
Yeah.
Caught the virus.
Okay. This virus obviously plays no favorites.
Right.
Do I think LeBron?
Now, if I remember correctly, they first started to put out intonations of shutting down the NBA on March 11th, which was the same date that I think Floyd Mayweather's uncle passed away. Roger Mayweather, the quote-unquote Black Mamba. Of course, 3 times 11 is 33 for the Great Enlightener, the quote-unquote serpent. And then a couple of days later, on the 13th, is when they pretty much shut everything down. That's also the date in which they removed Miss Breonna Taylor, and that was for the Mother Goddess. What they call Friday the 13th is for the quote-unquote Great Mother Goddess. And the number 13, I've been over this many times with you brothers before, is for that great dragon or the great serpent, also known as the quote-unquote Jack-in-the-Box, or the clown coming forth out of the cube.
Is invincible, right? No, I don't. I think if he makes one mistake, you have to continue to sanitize. You got to wash your hands. If you leave your hotel room and you touch surfaces like a doorknob, you just have to remember, I got to wash my hands, and you can't touch your face.
Yep, and the thing is, this is more than breaking curfew. This is not a situation where you're breaking curfew and you're out, and the only thing, you might not get any rest. You're putting, when you break curfew or you go outside of the enclosure, you come back in, you put other people at risk.
You do.
This is not about just you.
Right, but the question is, why is Adam Silver and the NBA Players Association allowing these players to break the bubble in the first place? Where's their security team? What's the point of having the tracking ring if it's voluntary? Did you get cold feet at the end because there were too many players comparing it to the mark of the beast, because they're all on YouTube as well? Some of them be watching my videos or other brothers' videos who cover these topics, and there were some concerns about it. That's the thing, the people always have the power. It annoys me when I read a comment section and you'll see people saying things like, oh, these are scary times, or these are frightful times. It's only frightful because you're frightful. If the people understand what's right and stand up for it, the powers that be are in the great minority. They have to shut it down. That's why the media has to be reformed. Everybody's talking about defund the police. No, defund the mainstream media. Defund and reform the mainstream media. Right now, it's legal for the media to lie to you. I'll be covering that in another video, but it's legal. It's okay. So they're never held accountable for their propaganda.
Interesting, because night before a game, if one guy breaks curfew and that guy stays out too late, has too much to drink or has too much fun, whatever, then he's betrayed.
And when I say lie, I'm talking about willfully lie, wittingly lie, knowingly lie.
Shannon Sharp, right? Because you're all in this together. Okay?
His team.
Yeah. Okay.
Now you do this.
This is for every team.
Everybody.
You are all in this literally together.
Yeah.
So one guy can't say this is silly. One guy can't say this is stupid. I'm going to go out and have a drink.
Right.
I'm going to go somewhere and get some food or whatever. You can't do it. And I know 2 or 3 months seems like forever right now. Trust me, it will pass. It'll be over before you know it. But you have to grow up enough and be disciplined enough, even though you've been spoiled rotten most of your life.
Yes.
This is the time you have to say, no, I got to do this right now for the sake of everybody in this bubble.
It's very difficult to expect, as you yourself stated, spoiled people or people who've been spoiled for their entire lives, people who have felt entitled their entire lives, to all of a sudden actually care and think about others.
Requires you to do your absolute best when no one is watching. So can you do your best? And Skip, I'm not dry snitch. I wouldn't dry snitch anyway, Skip, because my senior year, Skip, Coach Crosby, he was checking rooms. So it's after curfew, 11:30. He come banging on everybody's door. Everybody outside. Everybody outside. Now, Skip, anybody that knows me when I'm asleep, don't mess with me. Don't mess with me when I'm asleep. I'm moody, I'm grouchy, and it's going to be a problem. So I'm already upset. As my grandma used to say, I already got my butt on my shoulders. Where's Dan? His name is Danzy. I know you're watching Danzy. Where's Danzy? He ain't in his room. I say, who? Danzy, where is he? I say, Coach, first of all, he ain't no starter. Second of all, I don't know where Danzy is. I got a class at 8 o'clock. And I'm not running, and I'm not telling you if I did know where he is. I'm going back to bed. I walked off. Everybody looked around. Man, Sharp ain't staying. I'm going too. We went back to bed.
Where's Dansby?
I don't know where Danzy was, but he wasn't on the team no more when he did come back.
No, that was
but I wasn't running for no Danzy.
Skip. Skip, I'm so happy I got a good white man like you that I can divulge all my inner secrets. Let me tell you something else about Danzy.
Oh, boy, they called me and said, man, you remember you did that? I said, yeah, I remember. I was bad, too. I ain't snitching on nobody. It's not my responsibility. I ain't keeping up with him. I got to worry about me. I'm where I'm supposed to be, Skip. They need to be where they're supposed to be, Skip. Do what you're supposed to, because this is just not you. This is just not your team.
Yeah, this is not just about you. This is about LeBron and me and our family and trying to cement our legacy. This is going to be the one and only Disney championship. Can Michael Jordan ever say he won a championship in Disney? The answer is no.
Affecting the other 22 teams that's in this.
Okay.
Because if that bubble get cracked, Adam Silver, there are going to be a lot of guys that did everything. And that just goes to show you, Skip, sometimes everybody can do everything right. And you get one person to do something wrong. And that's why you have to be careful, Skip.
Well, I'm not quite sure how you can say that Adam Silver has done everything right if the players have the ability to go in and out of the bubble as they please. This is supposed to be a part of the agreement that, look, you're free to roam, but you're not free to roam the entire Disney campus, because we don't need you coming into contact with this person or that person. So there is going to be security details. It's not like they're going to harass you if you want to leave, but they are going to report you if you try to leave. And if they had that, they wouldn't need other players snitching on other players. That's how you know that this is really, on a microcosmic level, a test for certain protocols that they want to implement on mainstream society. When the coronavirus thing first hit, you had the mayor of LA, Garcetti, and also the mayor here in New York City, de Blasio, encouraging citizens to quote-unquote snitch on one another if they were not doing what the mayors commanded that they do. Wear your mask and all these other things. So these are all Marxist tenets.
Who you let on your ship? You know why? because sometimes people will sink your ship just because they can't drive.
Okay, so
I bet Shannon thought that he said something real deep when he said that too. Sometimes people will sink your ship just because they can't drive.
I hope they're all listening, and I hope they're all just it's a pretty simple protocol. It's pretty simple,
Right.
actually, because we'd all like to see them finish, and I think a lot of them would like to see them finish this.
And Skip, you know I make a lot of jokes about what they're going to eat. Trust me.
Yep.
I know a lot of your guys' background. You wasn't always eating lobster.
Yeah.
You wasn't always eating crab legs.
Right, but at the same time, Shannon, I mean, come on. Some of the food that has been made available for them at Disney has been less than subpar. Like, that's some shit that a fourth grader would eat. But at the end of the day, that's a bit of hyperbole, because there are going to be top-notch restaurants available for the players to eat at, and also for, you know, top-notch restaurants for them to order from. So that was a bit overblown as well. But let's not poo-poo some of those photos that we saw. Niggas eating fruit roll-ups and applesauce and shit. I mean, come on, man.
In New York strip with Wagyu, okay, A5 steak. You wouldn't always eat like that. So let's not pretend, okay? You ain't potluck. Your mom said, yeah, it's potluck. You be lucky to find some meat in there. So stop playing. You can do this for 2 months.
And the one point I disagree with you on, I'm okay right now with some. This isn't even dry snitch. This is like wet snitching, right? But I'm okay with it because I think you have to police yourselves for a while, because they can't police you. You have to make.
They could police them if that's what they truly wanted to do. If they wanted to take it out of the hands of the players, but once again, Adam Silver is concerned about appearances.
Everybody know. We'll blow the whistle on you.
Right.
It's almost like when you're playing pickup basketball, you have to call your own fouls.
Right.
Okay, right now they're calling their own fouls.
And a lot of times, Skip, when you do things.
Yes, because once again, in the core tenets of Marxism, you want to get the subject to give up their own liberties and their own rights.
It's not so much of getting caught. It's the thought of, I'm letting my teammates down. They're counting on me, and here I am bull jiving. I'm not taking this serious. And that's kind of how training goes, you know, Skip. I never got upset. When I saw guys from other teams, they missed workouts and they missed training sessions, that didn't bother me. That wasn't on my team. So I was happy because I know what you do. Okay, that gives me a great chance. It's you're letting not only your teammates down, you're letting everybody else that's taking this thing real serious, and you're not. It's not. Don't do it. Don't do that. But I ain't
you guys. It started funny, but it's serious, right? There's no mess.
Well, I guess you can call it serious. As serious as you can take something that's just for entertainment. But anyway, peace.